The South Pacific island nation Tonga was shrouded in ash from a devastating volcanic eruption on January 15. The resulting tsunami and earthquakes spread hundreds of kilometers. Tong was blanketed in a layer of volcanic ash, while surf overwhelmed trees and shattered buildings along the coast. The shock wave of Tonga's volcanic eruption swept the world and even triggered violent fluctuations in air pressure at the monitoring station in China. Across the Pacific Rim, many countries have issued tsunami warnings. The scale of this volcanic eruption is very large. The energy released is about 1,000 Hiroshima atomic bombs, the ash column is 5 kilometers in diameter, and the mushroom cloud is as high as 20,000 meters. So how did volcanoes form? Will Tonga's volcanic eruption affect the global climate? Will there be the horror of the year without summer in 2022? The formation of volcanoes is closely related to the structure of the Earth. Therefore, we must first understand the internal structure of the Earth. Billions of years ago, there was a lot of interstellar matter near the solar system. They were the remnants of the last supernova eruption. Their main components are hydrogen, helium, and some heavy elements iron and nickel. These interstellar matters gathered and condensed under the action of gravity and finally formed the Earth. In the process of aggregation, because of the release of gravitational potential energy and the decay of radioactive elements, the Earth was initially in a molten state, and the overall temperature was very high. Later, the decay of some radioactive elements stopped, and the Earth continued to lose heat to the universe. Finally, the Earth gradually cooled and formed the structure of the Earth today. The structure of the Earth is layer by layer. The outermost layer is called the crust, and the crust is very thin, only 5 to 70 kilometers thick. The marine part has a thinner crust and the land part has a thicker crust. The thicker part of the Earth's interior, called the mantle, is about 2,900 kilometers thick. The inner part of the mantle is called the core, and the thickness is about 3,400 kilometers, so the entire Earth's radius is about 6,370 kilometers in the molten state. There would be convection inside the Earth, and lighter materials, such as silicates, would float outward. Heavier substances such as iron and nickel deposit inward. Therefore, in the core of the Earth, there are a lot of metal elements, and the outer layer is mainly stone. Because gravity is toward the center of the Earth, the closer you get to the core, the greater the pressure and the higher the temperature. The main constituent material of the Earth's crust is rock, and the mantle is a special case, which is also layered. The top of the upper mantle is still rocky, and together with the rocks in the crust make up the Earth's lithosphere. However, this lithosphere is not a single piece but is broken and split, that is, plates. In addition to the 6 large plates on the Earth, there are many small plates and microplates. It's like the shell of an egg is broken. The asthenosphere appears in the middle of the mantle, and this part is fluid. Because the temperature is higher the closer you are to the interior of the Earth. The asthenosphere is formed when the rock melts. The asthenosphere is a jelly-like object that continues to melt to form magma. It can be said that the asthenosphere is the birthplace of magma. But if you keep getting closer to the core, it will turn back into rock again. Because the pressure here is higher, it is not enough to support the formation of the fluid. Even if the temperature is extremely high, it can only exist as a solid. The core is also divided into 2 parts. The outer core is metal in the molten state, that is, extremely high temperature liquid metal. The inner core is also hot, but because of the pressure, it becomes solid again. That is the most central metal core of the Earth. There are 3 modes of volcano formation, namely plate separating volcanoes, plate aggregating volcanoes, and hotspot volcanoes. The first type of plate separation volcano is that when 2 plates move away from each other, the crust in the middle becomes thinner and cannot suppress the magma inside. So the magma rushes out of the weak part of the crust to form a volcano. Iceland is located at the separation of the North American plate and the Eurasian plate, so entire Iceland is a volcanic island, with 130 volcanoes in the territory. The second type of plate aggregation volcano means that 2 plates are squeezed close to each other, especially when a marine plate is squeezed with a continental plate. Because the position of the ocean plate is lower, the ocean plate is remelted by the magma under the continental plate, resulting in a large amount of high-pressure water vapor broke through the continental plates to form volcanoes. Japan is located at the seam of 4 plates, the Eurasian plate, the North American plate, the Pacific plate, and the Philippine plate, so Japan is densely populated with volcanoes. Tonga, where the volcanic eruption erupted, also belongs to the plate aggregation volcano. The third type of hotspot volcano refers to the volcano formed in the plate, formed by the upwelling of the mantle plume. This type of volcano is characterized by a series of volcanoes that tend to form as the mantle plume remains stationary while the crust moves. Both Hawaii and Yellowstone are hotspot volcanoes. So what is the volcanic eruption spewing out? The first is lava, which is called magma when it is still inside the volcano. The second is volcanic debris. The small debris is volcanic ash, and the large debris is the rubble splashed by the eruption. Whether it is lava or pyroclastic, it is extremely destructive to human life. Shockwaves can destroy buildings, lava sparks fires, ash can crush homes. The most terrifying thing is when humans inhale ash, cement forms in the lungs. But at the same time, volcanic eruptions also form fertile soil, which is an extremely high-quality natural fertilizer. In addition, volcanic eruptions will bring rich minerals, such as precious metals such as gold. Volcanic eruptions, like earthquakes, are almost unpredictable with the current level of human technology. But humans can study the effects of volcanic eruptions on humans. According to the volume of erupting material, scientists call the level of the volcanic eruption the V index. Each additional level increases the eruption power by 10 times, and the maximum level is level 8. The eruption of Mount Vesuvius in Italy in AD 79 was rated V level 5. The ancient Roman city of Pompeii was buried under ash after the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. It was not excavated until the 18th century and is estimated to have killed around 20,000 people. However, there are still hundreds of thousands of people living near this Vesuvius volcano today. Similarly, Tokyo, the world's largest city, is also located next to the volcano Mount Fuji, and there is also the Dachan volcano near Taipei. Although volcanic eruptions are dangerous, in terms of long historical cycles, volcanic eruptions are still extremely unlikely events. And the fertile soil around volcanoes can quickly increase the yield of food crops and is suitable for human habitation. If a 5th-level volcanic eruption affects an area, then a 6th-level volcanic eruption is a global disaster. On February 19, 1600, a 6th-level volcanic eruption erupted in Peru, South America. Although the death toll was only 1,500, the huge amount of sulfur dioxide produced covered the entire Earth in the stratosphere, blocking the sunlight and causing the global temperature to drop. Followed by global food production has declined. The famine lasted for 3 years in Russia and a third of the population died. China is at the end of the Ming Dynasty. The Little Ice Age swept across East Asia, and the rivers in Zhejiang were frozen. This volcanic eruption caused global climate chaos. It can be said that the final demise of the Ming Dynasty was largely determined by this volcanic eruption on the other side of the Earth. From the beginning of the Little Ice Age in the late Ming Dynasty to the stable decades of the Qing Dynasty, according to the statistics at that time, the population dropped sharply from 150 million to tens of millions, and the death toll was terrifying. The power of a 6th-level volcanic eruption is still terrifying. So what about a 7th-level volcanic eruption? The only recorded eruption of a magnitude 7 volcano in human history was the eruption of Mount Tambora in Indonesia in 1815. Hundreds of millions of tons of sulfur dioxide entered the atmosphere, and the global temperature plummeted to form a terrible year without summer. In June 1815, it snowed heavily in New York in the midsummer season, and the worldwide food shortage struck again. It's just that the United States is very lucky. There is vast land in the West that can be reclaimed, which is the famous westward movement in history. In the history of human civilization, we have never witnessed the eruption of an 8th-level volcano, but it has happened before in Earth's history. That was the Toba volcano 75,000 years ago in what is today Indonesia. In the Arctic ice sheet, scientists found that the sulfur content of the ice layer 75,000 years ago suddenly increased, and finally found the Toba volcano in Indonesia based on clues from many parts of the world. The volcanic eruption at that time sprayed millions of tons of sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere, and the temperature dropped sharply by more than 15 degrees, which directly caused an ice age of tens of thousands of years. This great ice age had contact with early humans. Only 10,000 ancient humans survived the ice age. Perhaps after the end of the ice age, the global temperature rise caused the glaciers to melt, and the memory of the Great Flood was engraved in all human civilizations. The Tonga Volcano eruption is a 5-level volcano, and there is only one volcano that deserves attention, and that is the Yellowstone Volcano in the United States. According to the detection, the Yellowstone Volcano had 3 eruptions 2.1 million years ago, 1.3 million years ago, and 640,000 years ago. And all these 3 eruptions were super eruptions of magnitude 8 or higher. However, in recent years, the abnormal changes in the Yellowstone volcanic area have been frequent, and we must always pay attention to the dynamics here. If the Yellowstone volcano erupts again at a magnitude 8, not only will there be almost no one living on the North American continent, but electronic equipment around the world will be paralyzed. Sulfur dioxide will cover the Earth's surface within 2 weeks, and the equatorial regions will usher in a long blizzard. So extinction, the best case is to go back to the Stone Age and start again. So as the world's richest man Elon Musk said, humans should become a multi-planet living species. There will be huge disasters on the Earth sooner or later. Only by spreading the seeds of civilization into space can mankind truly last forever.